Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Shock Talk. Today we have a guest with us. He's a member of our engineering team. He's actually worked on some very special projects, and we're going to introduce him here in a second and let him go through some of the things that he's worked on with the company, give us a little background on his passionate relationship with automotive industry and other projects that he has going on in his life. So, Mark, welcome into podcast Shock Talk with us today. As usual, I have Junior and Shane with me as well. And Mark, we're going to give you a few minutes just to kind of throw it out there and start us off today.
Cool. Thanks, Mike. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Mark. I'm one of the engineers here at BILSTEIN. And as you guys know, I'm a big automotive enthusiast. And I love anything European. That's kind of my wheelhouse. So it's been a good fit here for me. But yeah, so everything's
Tell
great.
us what you have.
Yeah, here you have a car collection.
Just jump into it, man. Tell us what you got.
Right into it?
Yeah,
Okay.
you got some killer cars. Let's hear about it.
So maybe give you some backstory on what I've had was, or where it all came from. So in college, I started out with a bunch of SLs from like the 70s or from the 80s.
A bunch?
Yeah, a bunch.
like a junkyard?
Maybe not a junkyard, but there was you could find them everywhere. They were pretty easy to come.
Oh, so
come
you were
by.
a collector?
Yeah.
So, yeah, collector.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you needed a part off of that one, so
Yeah.
it was cheaper just to buy the whole car, and then you...
Pretty much, yeah. So you find one cheap, you have fun with it.
Yeah.
Fix it, do whatever you need to do. Sell it, find another one, and it just never ends.
Yeah.
But what was cool is they all were going to Germany. So the Europeans were coming to the States, and they're just going on a buying frenzy, picking up all these old SLs. So I kind of figured hey, I can make a little lucrative business out of this.
Wow.
So
Just a profit scheme.
Yeah, just fixing up old SLs, and then so once you got them fixed up, they went back to Germany. Is that?
Yeah, I've probably sent 30 to 40 cars to Europe.
Are you kidding?
What year range SLs were they... What year range SLs are they interested in?
So the R107 is what I pretty much specialized in, and that's 72 to 89.
Was this a college project? Or?
No, it just was it got me through college,
Right.
And even to this day.
So like a little side
Yeah.
business.
So these are those
Paid
little...
for your education.
These are those larger roadster cars, am I right? The
So you might be thinking,
SL500, like...
so that's the R129. So those
Okay.
are like the next generation. So the R107 they're the small roadster two-door.
Is it a drop top car?
Oh, okay, so like
With,
the
like, the convertible.
SLK 430 AMG or...
It's before that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Older.
So it's like a two-seater, right?
Yeah, it's a two-seater.
Okay.
They look really old. Like it looks like a car from the 70s.
James Bond car, right?
I mean,
Which is super like it's super common now. Like I can't believe how many like mid 80s 300 diesels.
Yeah.
yeah.
like,
We got a photo
yeah,
of it in the
that's
peanut
it.
gallery over there.
That was like
that-
a rich person's car
Yeah,
back in the
Yeah,
70s.
back in the
right?
day. Yeah.
That car is atrocious.
What? No, I think it's a timeless classic. Still one of my favorites.
I think that was a Kevin O'Keefe car, Shane.
You know what I don't
Yeah,
like?
it's
I
like
don't
a
like.
Beverly Hills.
I don't like that they repurposed that wheel on almost every Mercedes they had.
Yeah, the 15-inch Gula decal.
Yeah, that thing is hideous.
I like it. I think it's a timeless classic. And
Yeah. Is that a hubcap or is that the
No,
wheel?
that's a alloy.
it's
That's an alloy.
Although the early cars had steelies with hubcaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they look. I think they look amazing. Like,
Yeah.
haven't you seen these 240 diesels and these
you
300 diesels, these mid 80 cars?
Right there on Rodeo Avenue, man. That's where those cars came from, right?
Yeah, so that's a Eurospec. So and that's all I dealt with. So short bumper,
Eurospec.
square headlights. Yeah.
Wait, let's talk about Eurospec.
So what makes that different
I
from the
almost feel like I saw that car getting chased by Smokey in the
Yeah.
Wait, is this Eurospec or is this German spec?
Yeah.
right.
This is
What's
Yeah.
back?
So, I mean.
all right. What's the German spec?
Yeah. So
on
like
the-
rest of the world, some people call it.
Which is row. We've talked about
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, right.
yeah. So it's just you don't have all the regulations that we get here in the States. So you get the more elegant bumpers that don't have to go through the crash testing that U.S. cars do. We got this so the different headlights because we have like these sealed beams that we need here in the States. A ton of different regulations between U.S. and the rest of the world. So
And some of those parts get pricey. So
Yeah.
if someone's trying to convert a US spec model and you want the shorty bumper like on the E30 chassis,
same concept.
same concept. So these parts, so I could see I mean, I had no idea there were enthusiasts of that model, to be honest with you. But
yeah, they're huge
nor do I see why. But anyhow, I could see that the U.S. spec, the German spec, or the rest of world spec bumper would cost $1 gazillion because they're just not common.
Yeah, you can't get them here.
So how did you get those parts here to fix these cars up?
A lot of them were sent here.
Well, that's the thing. In the 80s, there were so many cars imported to the States. It was so big that Mercedes had to put a stop to it.
It was digging into the rest of world business then, probably.
Yeah, it was digging into their business. So then the OEs got together, and in '86 they just squashed it. So these third-party importers kind of just went out of business, and that's why you hardly ever see post '86 import cars here in the States.
Yeah, but in the mid '80s, even the Eurospec M5, like the 85 M5. What is that, an E34?
What year was it, sorry?
85?
85, that's E28, I think.
Okay, well, you're smarter than me. But you're an engineer, I'm not. But nonetheless, I mean, you saw a ton of those.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I used to thumb, because I had nothing else to do, but I would thumb through the Auto Trader before there was internet, and I would see old Bavaria cars. Remember the old BMW Bavaria?
Yep.
Those cars were $1,000 a pop, and now they're all of a sudden worth like $60,000.
Yeah, I mean, same with those SLs. I mean, I would pick them up for $1,000, $2,000.
Yeah, you couldn't give those things away before.
You couldn't. Same with air-cooled Porsches. Across the board, these cars are so cheap, and you can't touch an SL or an air-cooled Porsche, cheap anymore. I mean, those go for 15 to 30, depending on condition, just on average.
Yeah.
And then air-cooled Porsches are upwards of 50, 60, 70. I mean,
is that due to the restrictions that they put on them?
Back in the day of the Auto Trader.
Yeah,
right. That's when the Porsches were worthless.
Dude, I would pick up an Auto Trader. By the end of the day, my thumb and my index finger were black.
I love the Auto Trader.
You know what I mean?
You don't even remember what Auto Trader is, huh?
No, that was before my time.
Yeah, way before your time.
Yeah, but
anyway,
back in those, go ahead. But I was going to say, back in those days, those air-cooled Porsches were like
$1,000.
Yeah, they're
you couldn't give them away.
Well, we used to buy them and rob the engines and make dune buggies out of them.
On the same scale, like let's move into something else. So the hot rods. So American muscle. I would, like in the late '80s, early '90s, I'd be thumbing through, and I would see like a 396 SS car, Chevelle. It'd be like $1,800, and I'm like, who wants that? Things are disgusting. And now they're running through Barrett Jackson, and a real numbers matching SS car with a 396 is $100,000.
Yeah, they're crazy.
So what drives this, guys? Like, what do you guys think drives it? Is it? So my thought is, I'll tell you what I think, and then we can go into your thoughts. But just because I like to take over. But anyway,
he's going to tell you no matter what.
So
tell us.
So I think it's these age groups that grew up in these cars, and they have a special. They're like a special sentiment, right?
Sentimental.
So, yeah,
but
it's also
they
driving.
Covet them.
Right, but it's also driving a false market.
Well,
I mean, let's get it right.
Maybe to some degree.
Bring a trailer. I mean, these cars are absolute. I mean, you have to have a special attachment to a car to pay way over value.
Way over what it costs new.
Right.
In a lot of cases.
But it's more than that. I mean, there's hedge funds going on Break a Trailer, picking up cars for investment purposes.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, so I think we're just in such a different time now where the automobile was never an investment, right? Where now people do look at them as investments.
100%.
So when you were fixing these things up, what type of repairs or things were you doing to these cars? I mean, were you rebuilding engines and transmissions? Or
no, not that.
No, okay.
It was more just like
aesthetic stuff?
Yeah, just like, bare minimum just to get them presentable and have fun with them, drive them, at least be able to enjoy them. And then,
right.
Just move them to the next person.
So you must be good behind a polisher.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
So paint correction is not a problem for you then, right?
No, I mean, the basics isn't too bad. And another thing, too, is there was, like, restrictions in Europe that they needed to have on these cars. Like, a big one was the original wheels. So the bump wheels for those specific models, like, they had to have them. They always complained, saying aftermarket stuff doesn't qualify on the Autobahn. And there's
100%.
There's more restrictions for
TUV.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we've had this conversation for the U.S. spec on light truck. Like, people hate me, but aftermarket wheels are trash. I mean, they're about as round as a shipping container.
OE wheels are
so
way
the
better.
OE wheels to be an OE wheel provider, you know more than we do because we're an OE damper provider, and you deal with a lot of the OEs, right? So to be an OE wheel provider,
supplier, yeah,
you have to be hub centric, lug centric. You have to be, most of the stuff has to be forged aluminum. So there's so many requirements, and then people are taking these wheels off these OE wheels off cars every day and just putting them on offer up for $100 a set.
Yeah,
no, it's common,
and it's sad.
Crazy.
That,
And that's what I use now is offer up.
Yeah.
So I'll go in there and see if I can find some M wheels that people took off in favor of some Chinese wheels.
Yeah, and you know those OEs probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars
engineering it. Yeah.
And you find OEs like BBS, Oz. Oz made a lot of OE wheels in their day, and it's the BBS stuff. My 2010 5 Series run of the mill 535 had an OE wheel made by BBS, stamped BBS in the back of the wheel.
Back of the wheel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's common. I think most of the BMW wheels are all made by BBS. It's super common to see. And even for the Mercedes, I've seen stuff made by Oz. Or all the old Ferraris, I've seen Oz make those wheels or BBS. So
it's insane. We talk about it on the truck side especially when we get into Toyotas. It's insane that people think that the factory stuff is junk.
So it blows my mind.
It's crazy.
And there's guys in the aftermarket that do a really good job, like AEV. AEV, for instance, they do a wheel that is to OE specification.
Right, because they're an OE supplier.
So it uses the OE lug nut.
That's full power.
Yep. So it's a mag wheel shank, uses an OE lug nut.
Huge.
It's hub centric.
Yeah.
It's just as round as the OE. And there's manufacturers out there that do a good job. So to say that every manufacturer's bad, it's bad on
No,
it.
it's not.
But there are, like you said, why would you take a BBS wheel off in favor of something at Joe's Tires? Like something that was shiny or something.
And you mentioned something that was really important too, is the engineering dollars that goes into an OE wheel and the processes it has to go through to pass their stringent requirements. It's amazing that the aftermarket wheel doesn't have to go through any of those testing standards, or the engineer that designed it doesn't make nearly as much as the one from the OE supplier. But I want to get back to your story here. So you're going through college, fixing up Mercedes.
Yeah, so essentially that was kind of how I paid the bills. You know? So you could pick them.
I think I should do that.
Yeah,
Go back to college and
hustling Mercedes.
It worked, right? You could, like I said, you could find one for a couple grand, have fun with it, sell it for 5, 6, double your money, and you just keep it going. And back then, at any time, you could find one of these cars online in San Diego or LA. So there was an abundance of them.
Plethora.
Yeah. Yep. So it was more I got to pick and choose. Which one would be maybe be the
easier,
best opportunity to optimize profits when I'm done with this. So I did that throughout college until I could afford a car I actually wanted on my own to drive and have fun with, and that was a 190E Cosworth.
Ooh.
Yeah. So and back then they were cheap too, but it was the same mindset. I'm like, these are sub 10,000. They're special. It's a no-brainer. You could drive this car and you'll always at least break even, at a minimum. So that was always kind of my mindset was, what can I get into that I won't lose money on, and best case it'll appreciate and I can make some money on.
190E Cosworth. That's a hell of a rig.
Yeah, that's a unicorn almost.
Yeah, so I've had 3 of those too.
That's a 4-cylinder manual car, 2.3, right?
Yep,
right.
2.3.
And then the Cosworth built the engine, which was very unique.
So. Yeah, so Cosworth actually developed the head for it. It's a misconception. It's not the full motor.
Right.
But
uses a stock 2.3 block, and it's a built head.
Yep, exactly. So with the 16-valve head by Cosworth, dogleg trans, which is always fun and different.
Yeah.
And boxy, different, sporty. So that's still to this day one of my all-time favorite cars.
100%, and I could see why that vehicle's desirable.
Yeah. And now I called it. Back then, all day long they're 5, 6, 7, 8 grand. Yeah. I think I bought my first one for 8,000. And you really can't touch those sub 20 anymore. Junk ones are 20 grand.
What about a Capri Cosworth? Do you ever see those?
I haven't, but I've seen
I had one of those, a 76.
Really?
I had a 76 Capri Cosworth. And see, that's a desirable unit.
Yeah, that's
compared
that's
to that
car.
Compared to that hideous thing that got you through college, that's a car.
Well, so that's an Evo 2. So mine wasn't as cool as that. But,
Geez, Junior, he spent his life fixing up SLs.
But he did it to make money. He didn't. You're not attached to that car because you don't even own one today.
No, it's true. Like the SLs, I'm not attached to, but I do have a soft spot for them just because they were so well. They did so good to me.
I'm beating your soft spot, my
bad. They got me. You know, they really helped pave the way.
I'm ruthless.
But it also helps kind of start that passion, right?
Right. But also it gave you the knowledge going into every vehicle you have fallen in love with, right? Yeah. So you know what color combo people are looking for. You know what the desirable still has the same wheel that your SL car has.
It does.
Atrocious.
It does. Although I put the 16s on my car. So, but they're the same. They're the same Gula decals shape. They just are 1 inch bigger, and they came on the Evo ones.
Yeah.
So.
And that was the direct. For people that don't know, that was the direct competition to the E30 M3.
It is. Yeah. Which I also had.
Yeah. Yours was what color?
Mine was a Cinnabar red.
Okay. Was that the one that Doug DeMiro did a?
Yeah. I saw you. I think you were. I was in the parking lot when you walked by. You said hi.
You didn't know me at the time, and you were like, "Oh, this guy's gonna steal my E30."
Yeah. That was like right when I started.
Yeah.
So what's the offset and the back offset of those stock wheels, and lug pattern?
It's a 112.
5 on 112.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lug, and the offset is like ET like 20 something.
See,
is it?
Here we go.
I mean, stock. The stock wheels I never dealt with. You know?
Yeah, but you know it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. I'm testing your.
But
we get into tires and wheels here and backspace a lot.
Yeah. So you know what's cool, and this is why one of the main reasons that I'm so against aftermarket wheels for enthusiast type vehicles. Like an M3, just keep your wheels on there because you got a staggered fitment. You can have a plus 29 up front and you can have a plus 44 in the rear. And good luck finding a manufacturer that does that. Right? Like probably Apex. Apex is a good wheel manufacturer. They make quality wheels. But most aren't going to spend that kind of coin on an aftermarket wheel. They go with the replica wheels. Right. Mm-hmm. And these replica wheels, so now you're sacrificing. So now you're going to run a 5 mil spacer in the front to clear brake calipers. Yep. Now you're going to run a 10 mil spacer in the rear. Why don't you put your stock wheels back on it?
Well, my big thing was I always just found stock wheels off of like a better model. Yeah. So that's like
upgrade.
Well, you see my E91.
Yeah.
That wheel on the car that it comes on is atrocious.
Really?
That's a F15's a 5 Series. So that came off of a 2013 5 Series, run-of-the-mill 5 Series. So the 535, the 530, whatever 5 Series came with the luxury package.
Gotcha.
And if you look at that wheel, my opinion is if you look at that wheel on a 5 Series car, it looks basic. Mm-hmm. But to me, on the wagon, it looks like an Alpina wheel.
Yeah, it does. The multi-spoke. Yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I found that wheel for $250 for the set.
Wow.
And it's OE fitment. The only thing I don't like about it is and this is just because have time to think, the OE is a 14 by 1.5. This takes a 12 by 1.5.
Gotcha.
So the Acorn still seats it, but it minimally has a larger bore.
Yeah, a little bit of less.
a little bit larger bore. Yeah. But I mean, I don't get wheel vibration or anything. Still an OE wheel, still hub centric. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, I think that's the move. And like my 16 valve and my E30, I just found like Evo 1 wheels off like the higher tier level, and those did the job for me.
You still have that car?
No, that car's long gone.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Did you auction it or did you?
The 16 valve or the M3?
The M3.
No, I didn't auction it. I ended up selling it to a guy out of New York through a mutual guy I sold parts to. Just kind of worked out.
Was it too early for the E30 market?
Don't remind me. It was way too early. I could have got double for it. If I
day. Now. And that was a 200,000 mile car, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 222 when I bought it, or 218.
Yeah, but it was clean.
It was really clean. And that particular car had a 2.5 stroker in it.
Oh, wow.
So it was fun. It was like the powertrain was all built by Metric Motors in Montana. Yeah, they're known for doing BMW builds.
Nice. I'm gonna kick your soft spot. Yeah. What do you think it would have went for on Bring a Trailer today?
Today,
or even if it's the market softened on E30. Yeah, so let's go at the peak of E30.
At the peak of E30. Well, I saw non-runners with more miles than mine selling for 60. Yeah. So I would say at least 75.
Yeah.
On the low end.
So I have a question. Well, before the question, but I think it's going to be important. So back to your SL days.
Yeah.
Did you have like a sweet like scarf that you'd have?
A scarf and driving gloves. Yeah,
I needed one that would have been fitting.
With a brim hat.
Yeah, the brim hat, the driving gloves. Yeah.
Were you hitting PCH with a sweet scarf and a driving hat?
What was funny is I bought every SL from an old lady. Every single one.
Yeah,
was like an old lady driven.
And every old lady.
Did it come with a scarf?
Yeah. Every old lady I've ever spoken to in my life that's on Social Security, that's her dream car.
Yeah.
No, but I had a question. So what's a target car right now? Meaning that you're in a aficionado.
Yeah.
Well, no, let's not talk about before you talk about your target and your desire cars. Let's talk about
for making money.
What does your fleet look like now?
So my fleet, I have a 2000 E55 AMG, which is a real special car for me. It was my grandparents' car.
And you had grandparents that bought an E55?
Yeah, that's how I got it. Or I bought it off them.
That thing's immaculate.
Yeah, so a W210 chassis.
That's super nice.
That thing's immaculate.
Yeah, it's a nice car. It's a Designo edition, so it's like a goldish exterior with a green interior, which is pretty unique. You don't see that color combo often. But yeah, it's a special car. It's like an early AMG merger car. So Mercedes and AMG merged in the mid 90s. So the first AMG merger car was the C36 AMG, and then right after that was the C43, and then the E55 was I feel like their main popular kind of sought after car that was an early merger car, because the C36 and the C43 are still, I think, underappreciated.
But they're only 1 year cars.
Yeah,
though.
Right. C36 was 95 to 97, and then C43 was 98 and 99.
Yeah.
So, and there were small production runs. That was I think under 2000.
Yeah. That's I kick myself in the butt all the time, because you remember when the Black Series?
Of course.
Those cars were selling, they couldn't get rid of them on lots back in when 2003, 2002, was it that far back, right? They couldn't get rid of these Black Series AMG cars. Oh, yeah. And now it's blown up.
Yeah. Well, so I think Black Series was a little later, mid to late 2000s.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're crazy. A CLK 63 Black Series is 150,000+.
Yeah.
And it's weird how they appreciate, we were talking about that before we went on the mics today. What is causing the appreciation of some of and we hit on it a little bit while we were on podcast today, but it's the amazing to me is how much the cars are appreciating, like you said, using them as an investment, buying up these older cars where the knowledge tells you that this is going to be something that's going to be worth something later on. That's a skill in its own, right? Don't pick lemons, right? Exactly. Try to find something that's going to appreciate. So
I think what's interesting on that topic is, so it's always been cars. It's hot rods, and now it's muscle cars,
right?
And Mark's got this European side hustle going. So there's obviously a European, but I read recently that square body C truck or K trucks lifted
C10, C20s,
because from our era, Generation X, we were into lifted trucks.
Yeah.
So people are wanting to get a square body lifted truck.
Yep.
Or an old Toyota lifted truck.
I just saw a 78 K5 Blazer on off-road loans on Instagram. Thing was a rust bucket. And they wanted $28,500 for this thing, and I'm it's you got to be kidding! Crazy. This was a $1,500 truck 10 years ago.
25.
I think my brother has 6 of those
brand
rusting
new.
in his yard.
I had a comment on it, in fact, because it had a Jeep license plate frame with a built tough Chevy license plate frame on the front, and I said somebody consciously put that GM plate on there and put the Jeep plate frame on it.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, kind of some weird, twisted idea.
But you know what? I share your love for European cars, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to tell you where
Let's hear why.
I'm going to tell you where I think
Junior's going to tell us why.
Right.
Where I
there
think
may be a challenge.
I'll tell you where I think the Japanese car market misses the boat is in Japanese, Italian, like any other car. You can go, not anymore because everything's so mass produced now. Like BMW, Mercedes, all the CLAs and all that stuff. Like they're basically a Chrysler 200, whatever they share the chassis with. But in the collectible days, let's talk about 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Like the Black Series. Like that thing had different quarter panels, different front fenders. It was widened. It had a 12.5-inch wide wheel in the back. Like they did differences.
Yeah.
Like they.
And that's key for investment, right? Something different, unique.
They made the change. A real carbon fiber lip kit. Yeah. They really made change. The European market, like you could walk into a BMW dealership in the 80s and not find two cars that were identical.
Yeah, they did.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can get yourself a 3 Series. You can get yourself a 3 Series with orange interior. You can get yourself a 3 Series with oyster interior. You can get yourself a 3 Series with gray interior. No two packages were the same. Like you can get a fully outfitted 3 Series that didn't have heated seats, and you can get a fully stripped model that had heated seats. Like there was no two alike.
Yeah, it wasn't based on a package program.
Right?
Yeah, it was very open to customizing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and some of the stuff was like, why would anyone want this?
Yeah.
Like, why would anyone want heated seats, manual...
Plastic floor mats.
heated seats, but manual.
Yeah.
Like, no moonroof. Like, that's what I don't like about the Eurospec is everything had a moonroof. They didn't have... Very, very few slick tops ever made it to America. Which, at the time, no one wanted them. Like, I would have bought every slick top I could find.
I know. Even up into recent years, everybody wanted fully optioned vehicles.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so that's what sold more. That was what was a better option, right? Is going fully loaded.
And that's what I've always been passionate about is to find what they call like poverty pack or, just like cars that weren't the same. Like if I could find a slick top long roof wagon, I'm trying to buy it.
Right. Cloth interior. Manual trans and roll up windows.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to buy it because it makes it more desirable.
I agree. I'm the same way. I think those like stripper specs, they call them, is the way to go.
Yeah. In the Japanese world, it's called poverty pack. So like if you get a 100 Series Land Cruiser that had, they made them out here $98, $99. You can get a 100 Series Land Cruiser, but you had to order it from Toyota. It wasn't something that they just naturally brought in. Because like you said, everyone wanted the leather, the moonroof, the third row seat, the third row air conditioning. But you can walk into a Toyota dealer in $98, $99 and say, I want cloth interior. I don't want a moonroof. Mm-hmm. I don't want a third row. So it got rid of the third row air. It got rid of the third row seat belts. No running boards.
Nice.
Like you could get that.
Bare bones.
Right.
And that's what, like back to the SLs, that's why I looked and only dealt with the like the Eurospec ROW cars because they were pretty much all like that. Mm-hmm. They were cloth interior. They had less horsepower restrictions, more horsepower. No smog, garbage. The shorter bumpers.
I hope California's listening.
Yeah.
They're coming to get you.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing for those they came in a manual. Unlike the U.S., we never got manual cars. We never got cloth interiors.
They're all automatic.
Yeah.
So it's the Eurospec stuff stood out from all the U.S. stuff that we see here.
And people want the different. They want something different.
They want to stand out from the crowd.
Right, 100%.
Yeah, that's why they want those wheels.
That's what drives me. But back to how I share that passion with you on European cars. It's like they just do it different. Like they don't. Like I can walk on in let's just say 2000. I walked on a Toyota lot, and it had 74 Toyota Corollas, and outside of the color, they were exactly same package.
Yeah.
They had 160 Camrys, and outside of color, they were the exact same package.
That just comes down to the people that are buying them, right? Us as consumers, we all want this basically now, and our commuters, we all want the same features And that in the day where those cars were popular, I think like you hinted at, everyone was unique, looking for something very unique in a car, and it was something that someone bought and kept forever. Like you mentioned, you bought them from, an old lady who had it for 30 years probably, and that was sure. She picked that one out.
Also, I think back then too. I mean, were they enthusiasts buying these cars, or were they just trying to get to point A to point B? Right. We're enthusiasts. Right. So I think that really changes how you view and how you would spec a car out.
Exactly.
Well, why did BMW do it but Toyota didn't? You know what I mean? So this is why I think like let's talk about one of the better performance Japanese cars. Let's do an ISF.
Okay.
5-liter V8 rear drive car. You get that thing in a windy road, cancel Christmas. That thing is terrible.
Yeah.
Right? I could take my 3 Series wagon with stock dampers and I will track that ISF in a windy road. They're funner to drive.
German engineering.
They're funner to drive. They handle far better. So people always say, well, why would you ever buy a BMW car? They're maintenance hogs. Yeah, but they're actually fun to drive.
Yeah, they perform and
they're fun to drive.
They're enjoyable. Like
right. That's why I got rid of my LS 430 because I was tired of driving a recliner to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it was and then people talk about reliability. Toyota and Lexus, they make a reliable car. They don't make a trouble-free car.
Right.
So the issues you have that are common in Toyota are livable. So people do not question it. So door actuators, lazy power window motors, the telescoping steering wheel motor, like all this stuff fails. It fails, but people can live with it. So they still love the car.
Right.
However, the BMW failure is going to cause you to be on the side of the road.
Yeah. Right.
But if you calculate monies.
Same.
Monies.
That's more than one money.
If you calculate your monies, if you were to repair this Lexus, all your door actuators, all your power window motors, everything that's common failure, navigation failure, if you were to correct all this, I promise you that it's going to be as much of a maintenance hog as your German car.
Yeah.
But people don't talk about that because it doesn't affect the functionality of you getting from point A to point B. Whereas an oil filter housing gasket that's dumping oil, you need to correct it sooner than a power window. You need to correct it sooner than a power window motor.
Right. And you're calling AAA.
Yeah, exactly.
That just pisses you off.
Yeah.
But it's like all manufacturers have their shortcomings. It's crazy. Look, I'm a Toyota guy.
Yeah, I mean, I love JDM stuff too. I'm not just like a diehard Euro guy. I'm pretty open and I like everything.
Yeah, if you haven't guessed our audience so far, Junior has a LC 100.
Yeah. So back to Mark.
And I have a German car.
Yeah.
That's for sale, by the way.
Was BILSTEIN your first job out of college, or did you have another job?
I had another job at our competitor.
Right.
So it was, I was interning at a spinal company doing, spinal implants. And it was really cool. I thought that was maybe the route I wanted to go, was a medical device.
Right.
But it just lacked that passion, you know.
Right.
It just was a job for me.
J-O-B.
Yeah, exactly. So I just realized then that's not what I wanted to do.
So basically you short-circuited.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't care about how much money I'm going to make.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But I want to work on cars.
Yeah.
I care less
like
about,
us.
I care less how a spine compresses. I'm into how a damper.
Yeah, let's get some shocks going.
I want to talk about backspacing.
Yeah.
Lug nuts.
Yeah, so I mean, and you said it best. I think there's more to life than just money. So,
right.
I think it's just, quality of life is way better when you enjoy what you're doing.
100%.
And yeah, like that internship made me realize I have to get into something that I enjoy.
Right.
And obviously automotive was a big one. So I knew we had some automotive in San Diego. So that's kind of what I've been after. And yeah, so I ended up at our competitor for 6 months, and it was cool. It was a great foundation. But I wanted to get into design. I was in quality over there. I was a quality engineer, and I know first job out of college, you can't be picky, right? Foot in the door. But
pay your dues.
Yeah, exactly. Pay your dues. But you know, I didn't want to get pigeonholed into that department, and when I saw opportunity here open up, you know, I just ran with it.
And you're like BMW, BILSTEIN,
yeah. How long
Mercedes?
Are you BILSTEIN now, Mark?
So I started I started June of 2019.
Yeah, got some time in.
Yeah, so it's been 4 years, over 4 years.
So I think the listeners might want to know from the engineering standpoint and things that you can talk about without letting on too much about some of the OE contracts that we have. But what are some of the highlight projects that you may have worked on through those years that you've been here with us? Give us kind of a rundown of some of the highlighted projects and some of the ones that were the most fun for you.
Yeah, I would say I think the most fun for me has been some of the KSW projects, which are our customer projects. You know, I've worked on some TRD stuff, Mopar stuff, and yeah, it's been pretty enjoyable. On the flip side, I've also done a lot of catalog parts. So Bronco in particular, I think was one I've been working on for a while. I've done most of the product line for that, and it's just a nice balance between, you know, being able to design stuff, you know, go in the shop, fit stuff up on the vehicle, you know, work with our development engineers, get some tuning in, you know, be a part of that. So I think overall it's a nice balance. You know,
wait a minute, did he just say that engineers go in the shop?
Yep, we sure do.
No, I'm just kidding. We see them in there all the time. But that to me is different from what I've seen in the rest of the industry as far as engineering. Typically, you think of an engineer as somebody who might just design the product on a computer and not really actually put their hands on the car or drive the car or any of that type of stuff. So from your standpoint, do you think that makes a difference in how our products actually turn out in the end?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more hands-on you are, the more understanding you have, and I think the better the product comes out. And I think we do a pretty good job on having that balance of, you know, on vehicle or, you know, in vehicle and off vehicle dynamic.
So using a technology type approach and also hands-on and seat of the pants type approach. So Bronco, let's just take that one.
Okay.
Let's talk about the different products that you designed for that vehicle. Did you start with 5100 or?
Yep. So that was what we started with, was 5100s.
And the Bronco has so many weird. No, the Bronco you can get whatever you want, right?
Man. Don't get me started.
It's just like crazy.
That's why I picked Bronco, because it's
never ending.
It's never ending. Yeah.
Well, especially when you're working off of like a snap ring ride height adjustment type product. And then all the different submodels that come, all the different submodels that come out, and it's like this submodel looks like it's like if you hit a bump, the cat's going to hit the ground. This other one looks like it's fitting 35 stock, but really the geometry of the suspension is kind of the same.
Yeah, it's definitely similar across the board. It is interesting to see like the range and how many packages they have. And it's also cool to see BILSTEIN on the OE Sasquatch package.
That's what I was going to say. Is it's
so that was
we have that OE connection. Did you work with any of the OE development, or was that already?
That was pretty much all
already done.
Know, when we started doing catalog product.
So you had the OE baseline basically,
right?
Or a drawing perhaps, and then just started from there and basically from scratch.
Yeah, I mean having the OE data was helpful for sure.
But we don't go off. And this is another good topic to touch on. Like, yeah, we're OE on it, 100%. We are OE on Bronco. We're OE on 2022 Tundra. And people are always upset with us. Like, hey, you know, you guys are OE on this stuff. Why don't you have a shock available for it? You have all the data.
That's what I mean. We started from scratch with aftermarket. Yeah.
Just because we're OE, like when you change suspension geometry, there's obviously got to be more rebound control. There's got to be all kinds of different avenues that have to be addressed. Top out point, bottom out point. Do we need to put bump stop spacers? Do we need to put, is there a need for a droop limiter, or how do we need to choke this up so it doesn't overcycle the front end? There's all kinds of stuff. Like, we don't just guess at it. Right. So sure. It's start to finish. You're a start to finish guy. You start the project, you bolt the project up, you work with the tuning guys. It's irrelevant. Our OE relationships are not real relevant. I mean, they're relevant, but they're not everything to the way an aftermarket product works, especially when you're changing suspension geometry.
Well, yeah, most of what we're doing is changing suspension geometry.
Right.
People want to lift their car.
Right.
So
and we just say car now and not just truck, because we have.
But the benefit of the OE connection is definitely the quality standards, and you know, I mean, if we can build the OE shock, we're going to build the aftermarket shock to the same exact or higher quality standards if we can, including all the geometry changes that are necessary. So that's the important.
I think the big thing is like the so we're the tier 1 supplier,
right,
and so we get the bushing. Like maybe we can't use the Ford bushing, but we'll tool up our own to a similar spec. We know what the spec is. We know what the testing is. So you know, that's one of the reasons why it takes a while to get a 5100 out.
Right.
Because we got to tool up a bushing, we have to tool up a spring seat.
And that one we had to. And all that, even on the aftermarket, is going to be to OE quality specification.
Yes. Yeah.
Like same durometer, rubbers used, so you get the same amount of deflection. A lot of people don't understand the amount of engineering, Mark, that goes into this stuff. Like you have to have, like they don't know how much, like they just assume a bushing's a bushing. No, their rubber grommets have a ton of different durometers, right? So we need to know what's going to be most comfortable, right? A super high durometer like a urethane bushing can make a car feel completely different than a rubber grommet.
Just rubber versus polyurethane.
Yeah. So you create rigidity. So how much rigidity do we want to add to it, or how much rigidity do we want to take out of it? You know, there's all that. It's not just what's inside the shock. It's fitting the shock to the vehicle and what fits the shock to the vehicle.
Yeah. And we have the data because we're OE on all of those critical components, and we can make something that's going to last the lifetime of your vehicle. Right. We have a lifetime warranty.
And maybe Ford didn't agree to a higher durometer bushing, but now we in the aftermarket could say, hey, when we were doing this, we recommended a higher durometer bushing.
Using our experience that we gained in the OE.
We thought that a higher durometer, but it caused a little bit of, chassis jittery, but we think that it's going to be far, it's going to last longer. We're going to get more longevity out of this part. So we can actually put a higher durometer bushing in an aftermarket damper because of the change in geometry and just the way we want it to work on the aftermarket.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about being in aftermarket is you have that freedom.
Yeah.
Which isn't always the case when working with OEs.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because
it's never the case.
Yeah. If engineering knows that when you're working on an OE project, your hands are tied. You're pretty much building the product the way that they want it within our quality standards, of course.
And the engineers of the car that are working with our OEs directly, I mean, they definitely lean on us heavily, like to give recommendations because we were the suspension pros.
Yeah.
Right. So they lean heavily on our recommendations, but like they got their own suspension engineers that are working directly with our suspension engineers, and it's back and forth. I'm sure. It's
a lot of back and forth.
A lot of back and forth.
So thanks everyone for joining us on Shock Talk. We'll see you again next episode.